Everybody loves dads, stories, and the Marine Corps. What could be better than Marine Corps dads who tell stories? Here's another story with veteran storyteller John Sugar Jr., a Marine Corps dad.
Tonight, we are going to tell the story of Leinengen versus the ants. Once upon a time, there was a man named Leinengen. Can you say Leinengen? Leinengen. Leinengen. He owned a plantation in the country of Brazil. And in Brazil, he built a business on his plantation. And he growed many fine and wonderful things. However, one day, the commissioner came to Leinengen and he said, Leinengen, we must go, for they are coming. And Leinengen said, who is coming? And the commissioner, he say, the ants, the soldier ants are coming. And Leinengen said, oh no. And so Leinengen, he go back to his plantation. And everyone is evacuating. Everyone is picking up all of their things. They are putting them into boxes. And they are screaming and they are crying the whole time. And Leinengen say, Nein, which is how the Germans say no. He say, Nein. And all the workers stop and they say, what he say? Nein. I am not leaving my home and my entire business so that a bunch of insects may overrun it and destroy it. I will fight the soldier ants with everything that I have. And all the workers, they said, we will fight with you. And Leinengen said, get a shovel. So all the workers, they got a shovel. The next day, the soldier ants arrived and they came crawling upon the ground. They were eating all of the food. There were millions of them. Billions of ants consuming the world. And only one thing stood between them and the plantation. It was Leinengen! And Leinengen stood before a moat. Do you know what is a moat? He and his workers, they dug a trench into the ground and they connected it to the river. And they filled the moat with water. And so the millions of ants, they came towards the water, and Leinengen stood upon the other side, looking at his workers, and he said, wait for them to come. And so the soldier ants, they gathered upon the bank of the moat, and they said, you cannot hear them, they are ants. And so all the ants, they came forward. And there's a bunch of ants who died because they went into the water. And so the ants, they stopped. And they said, bring the boats. And all of the little ants, they brought leaves from the trees. And they put the leaves on the water. And all the ants began to sail their little leaf boats toward Leinengen. But the Leinengen was not afraid. Leinengen said, empty the moat. And the workers, they turned the wheel, and the pump took all the water out of the moat. And all the ants on the little boats went, because now they could not reach Leinengen. And so they all fell into the bottom of the moat. And you do know what Leinengen said. Leinengen said, fill the moat. And they put the water back into the moat. And all of the ants on the little boats on the bottom of the moat, they said, ah! And all of the water hit all of the ants and smushed them all in the little leaf boats. They did this 8 times. The ants would bring their boats. The water would drop. All the ants would go, ah! He said, fill the moat. And the water come back and take out all of the ants. Until finally, the ants, they got across the moat. Do you know how they do it? The ants formed a special operations squad. And this squad attacked the pump that would pull all of the water out. And so when he said, empty the moat, the workers say, it is not working. And they said, we must retreat. And so all of the workers in Leinengen fell back from the boat. But do you know what there was? 2 moats. They dug 2. And in the second one was not water. And so the ants that came on, they had lost millions to the first moat. And they came on with their little leaf boats. They carried them with them. They say, not again, Leinengen. And they bring them to the second moat. And they say, mine eyes. What is this that I feel in mine eyes? It burns. And so they brought their leaves to the moat. And they began to float across the second moat. And do you know what Leinengen did? Leinengen struck a match and threw it into the moat, which was not filled with water. It was filled with gas, like you use for your cars. This huge fire, like unto a Flammenwerfen, exploded into the night, and all of the ants went as they were caught on fire, and they tried to go through the moat, but they could not get through the moat. They were like, and none of the ants could cross the moat. But you do not know ants. Do you know what happened? The ants, they kept coming. And their little ant bodies put out the fire that was on the moat. And Leinengen's workers, they all say, run away! And Leinengen said, Nein, bring me my armor. And the workers, they said, what? And Leinengen said, I will put on the armored clothes so that the ants cannot get in. And I will cover myself in the gas so that the ants, they will not want to be upon me. And I will run to the dam that holds back the water of the river. I will flood all my plantation to kill the ants. And the workers say, you're crazy. And Leinengen said, bring me my armor. And so they put the clothes upon Leinengen. And Leinengen, he took in his pants into his socks and covered them with the boots. And he buckled all of his sleeves and closed his collar and put on the helmet like for the bees, when you keep the bees. He put it on upon his head and covered himself with gas. And the only way to get to the dam was to run through the ants. And so Leinengen, he came to the edge of the moat. And all the ants look at him. And Leinengen look back at the ants. And there was a grasshopper. And he say, and Leinengen say, Schnell! And Leinengen began to run. towards the dam. And the ants, they fling themselves at him. And Leinengen was running. No! And he was scraping at the ants as they ran on him. They were running into his legs. Because they were soldier ants. And so he continued to run. And he fell down. And all of the ants began to laugh. And all of the ants began to crawl upon Leinengen and began to bite him. The ants, they bite me. And all of the workers were on the other side. They could hear him. Oh, they got Leinengen. What are you going to do? We are going to die. And so they all ran up to the manor, to the big house. But on the ground, Leinengen, they were biting him. They were trying to hold him down, but Leinengen said, "Nine." And Leinengen stood to his feet. I do not care about their pain. I do not care about how much they try to hold me down. I am going to save my plantation. And so Leinengen took a step. And another step. And all of the ants were like, "No! Nine! Put him down! Put him down!" And Leinengen did not let them do it. And Leinengen continued to march directly towards the dam. And he get to the dam. He get to the wheel that opens the dam. And all of the soldier ants, they say, "No!" And Leinengen said, "Yes." And he took the wheel and pulls it down. And all of the water came across the plantation and drowned all of the ants, because they are soldier ants. And soldier ants do not know how to swim. If they were navy ants, this may be different. However, the navy ants were all burned up in the fire mode. And these were only the soldier ants. And they all drowned with the river. And all of the workers who were in the big house, they saw Leinengen coming back. And they say, "Leinengen! Leinengen! Leinengen!" And you know what Leinengen say? "Get back to work. For what do you think I am paying you? Clean up all of the ants. Let them come back. I will drown them all. For I am Leinengen." And that is the story of Leinengen versus the ants.
Can you tell?
The end.
Can you tell the story?
That was another story with John Sugar Jr., a Marine Corps dad. Check the show notes for links to his Patreon and website at creativegrumbles.com.